Hello friends, TJ, your favorite janitor at Dusklight here, stealing the mic from Everett just to let you know that this is the second primer, and you can find the first one linked right here. We will be releasing the first proper episode, detailing episode 1 of Hotel Inertia, next week, and after that there'll be one more primer for episode 2 due to some audio issues, then everything will be going as planned. If you like what we're doing here and you're really curious about it, there are a ton of content relating to Sturgeon on the Dark Somniums channel, Romnex's channel, here at Dusklight, and over at SpiritVoices. There's also the books, and everything is available at r/TJ Lee. We really hope you enjoy what we're doing here, and we're excited to see you for the premiere next week. Take care. Hello everyone, welcome back once again. My name is TJ Lee from Dusklight Radio, and I have the wonderful SpiritVoices, aka Lucy, with me.
Hello.
We are here once again because we decided that after some consideration and lots of editing, on my part at least, I was just not confident in the audio for the interlude, and I consulted Luce, because Lucy has just as good, if not a better, understanding of audio fidelity. And when we talked, to Ronnie, who is a dear friend and is also sponsoring the show, he felt that it was not fixable due to the fact it was choppy all over the place, and we agreed that it's too much to ask people to listen to for the very first thing they're going to hear from the actual show. So we skipped ahead to episode 1, which is coming out after this, and it's fantastic. The audio is all in place. We're very happy with that. And then we're going to do one more primer for episode 2. And then rest assured, from that point onwards, for the next 20 sessions so far, touch wood, there are no problems at all. So we decided that this was the better decision. So for the next however long, probably just under an hour, you have me and you have SpiritVoices, and we're going to take you through the events right after the very first arc in Mantis Bay. Luce, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, so where we ended last time in the, sort of introduction primer, I believe we were talking about Eliza and sort of the fate of her.
Yes.
Which is to say her disappearance into the radio tower.
Yeah. Where she died, basically.
Yeah, we ended on that final lesson of, you can't save everyone. Basically, I think I want to preface this by saying sort of what our interludes / rest sessions include, because we always have a couple of options of things that we can do, and sometimes they are different based on, what we've just been through. We've only done 3 rest sessions at this point at the time of recording this, but we also have a couple of set options.
Yes.
Now that we have the safe space of the spaces in between with Sully and Cheddar there to help us out, we can always go get a drink over there. That is usually our general group hangout spot. So far, at least. We usually have, our edgiest conversations over some drinks there. And also our edgiest bonding sessions as well. But yeah, so that is one of our options. Did we talk about Mr. Sticky last time? I feel like...
No. No, I think we skipped Mr. Sticky.
I think we might have skipped over Mr. Sticky.
Holy fuck. Okay.
And that is going to be the weirdest out of context question that I've ever asked.
Okay.
But...
All right, gang. So let me set the scene for how Mr. Sticky and Everett came into this. So in the prologue, which was set in a cabin in the woods. I know, so original, right? I should get an award for my ideas. This was just pre-Margot, no Dahlia at this point. So our gang have been bickering, they're hearing some noises in the woods, and eventually they're told to go downstairs, and they go through this long hallway, and it's pretty tight, and at the end of it is a metal door with one of those hatches or slits, I don't know the actual word for it. and Flebs decides that he is just going to go up and inspect it. And because this is early, and and I will say this many times for anyone who does come back to this later on down the line after we've released the whole thing, I am a new DM, so I'm going to make mistakes. And I know that, I did one here, but I said, hey, are you sure? Tried to give him a little hint. And Flebs was like, no, I'm good. He went across and he got shocked. Immediately tased and was out cold. And the person on the other side of the door was Everett J. Blackwell,
Woo.
the host of Dusklight Radio. Of which I am a humble janitor with my purple crayon wife. And Everett basically said, I'm not letting you in unless you give up your weapons. And this is part of a manipulate someone role. Or and it can also be an act under pressure role where you have a hard move, a price to pay. And basically they got a mixed success. So I was like, all right, Everett will let you in if you put your weapons into the chute. And of course the gang says, what chute? And they turn to the left and they see this metal chute form out of the wall, a pair of eyes and tentacles, and a voice that literally sounds like oh, and that is Mr. Sticky.
There he is.
Lucy, why don't you explain what Mr. Sticky is in your interpretation, in Callista's interpretation?
Well, Callista's interpretation is kind of funny because she doesn't even interact with Mr. Sticky all that much, but I mean, essentially, he's just like this disembodied, presence, I guess. He is around whenever we need anything having to do with weaponry, basically.
Yeah.
He's like our resident weaponsmith.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he's just... I'm trying to think of how to describe his personality. Because he's very mischievous.
Yes. Yes.
I would say that's like a big one.
He's playful. He's a cheeky little scamp. Yeah.
And he's like way more powerful than it originally seems, and we only know that because of some very ominous remarks about him. He just, I don't know. I remember that Flebs kind of treated him like a dog at the beginning, like a pet.
He did. And what happened when he was like, and Flebs is just such a, we said it's about deadpan, like, hello there. But and he's just like, you're a good boy, Mr. Sticky. And what does Mr. Sticky do?
He spit at him.
And bear in mind, poor Flebs at this point has been tased, is woken back up, and then is immediately, and kicked, and that was how I started the game, yeah.
That was earlier.
That was, that was fun. So, yeah, it was just like, it was just so amusing, and then you guys are let into the haven, and that was where that was your temporary haven. That was my way of mechanically setting them up and saying this is what it's going to be like when you get your own haven. But yes, that was Mr. Sticky.
The haven pre-spaces in between. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and Mr. Sticky, like I said, Mr. Sticky helps us out with anything having to do with weaponry, so that is another one of our options for interlude stuff, is we can go to Mr. Sticky. He can either enhance our weapons somehow, or he can make them into trick weapons, giving them another form or imbuement or something like that that we can use in future battles. So I think in every interlude so far, most of us have visited Mr. Sticky for one reason or another. The most recent interlude, we specifically that was my first time visiting Mr. Sticky, but everyone else has visited him more than once.
Yes.
And so drinks, Mr. Sticky. What's the other one? Gashapon? Yeah. The Gashapon's another one.
Yep.
We can get magical items out of there. And Callista has notoriously terrible luck with the Gashapon, which I'm sure we have some recordings of, but
what happened when What happened when you had the really bad failure? Like, you kept up failing, but it was like a complete critical failure.
Was that
what happened?
Was that my first one, or was that
No?
Like, did we record that one? That one might have been during Hotel Inertia.
It might have been actually. It might be a spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to.
It was the slightly controversial one where like because of what the message said when it came out, and you were like sitting there like almost crying. But yeah, that's fair.
I think that might have been. I think that was in the. I think that was in Hotel Inertia. So maybe we can leave that one for everybody. But no, I think okay, wait. Now I have to look. Was the first one that I ever did in the first interlude? Let me check. Because I do remember, basically, Callista, just every time she approaches the Gashapon, except maybe once, did she ever do a good job there? I don't even remember.
I think she once did all right, and I think that was it. I believe that was the only time she did okay with it.
I think our first instance of the Gashapon might have been, like, near the very beginning, so I don't think we recorded that.
Yes, that was actually in the Haven.
Right, I was gonna say that. I think that was with Everett, maybe. Yeah, so, okay, let me think about how this happened, because I remember it being a very good first character interaction. Sure. It was the one where it was just Callista, Flebs, and Jericho, I think.
Okay.
Because Margot wasn't there yet, Jimmy wasn't there yet.
Okay. But it would have been interesting regardless, because of the fact that, like, the way that the Gashapon is, it's just a random, it's a completely random situation. And when it does occur, like, there are some items that can be helpful. There are some that are just sort of, what's the word? Inconsequential. But it really just depends on, what the role you get is. But it was, there was a failure that I'm looking forward for the readers to hear, and I think I might have been too harsh, but it was just too funny, and the image of Callista crying with confetti around is just so funny. But yeah, so don't worry if you can't find it. We can always
Well, I remember. Okay, I don't know if I could find it here, but I remember some of it. I remember that I think it was Baby Flebs who used it first. I want to say somebody was really confident when using it, and I'm pretty sure Jericho like did it pretty easily.
Okay.
And then Flebs like kind of messed his up, and then Callista was really like smug about it, like. She like hit the machine and fixed it for him or something, and then she did hers and like just completely 100% just failed miserably and like broke. I think she broke it. She broke it, right?
She did break it. Yes,
she did. She just straight up broke it, and she got this. She ended up getting, because I think TJ felt bad for me. I needed something out of the Gashapon, so I got a little a bobblehead figurine of Lady Death, who, if you don't remember from the first one, that's my patron. She Callista serves Lady Death, and it was of Lady Death, and she was on a repeat. Like, she had like a little voice box in there repeating, I know what you did. I know what you did. I was hoping you would do it. So I wouldn't have to do it. Yes. Yep. And it was on repeat. I think Callista threw it across the room, and then I want to say Jericho's the one who stole it and kept it. Yeah,
he did. He's collecting them now, because he's got one of D as well.
Yes. Yeah, so,
oh, that's good. That's good.
So Callista notoriously very bad at the Gashapon. I'm almost positive that there is a record of that somewhere that you guys will hear eventually. But yeah, so I feel like those are our main three options, right? In the interludes, besides just like
that's right,
character interaction and all that stuff. Yeah, drinks, Gashapon, and Mr. Sticky. So that being said, our other option, like, sort of as it duels as sort of an arc finale and an interlude beginning, which is to say that we also wrap up any loose ends that we want to cover before the arc like fully ends. That's usually how we start any interludes. So I guess, because I don't think we mentioned that at all last time, so I guess we can begin with that. I mean, mostly that entailed us visiting, Sheriff Muldoon, who's still one of my favorite NPCs. I remember mentioning him last time. And we basically just, had dinner with him, had a few, character interactions. I'm trying to think if any of them were relevant to context, but I don't think so. I think we were just bonding with him. His wife made us food. That was really cute.
Oh, that was really nice. Yeah, she made you Strombolis.
She
Shout
did.
Shout out to Zunk for the Stromboli situation coming back into Sturgeon. And that was where we planted the seeds of Muldoon and yours kinship.
Yes.
If you will, which has only gotten stronger as time has gone on. We've just wrapped up our fourth arc, and obviously this is the end of our first we're talking about. And by the end of the fourth arc, you are very, very close, and we won't spoil what happens, but yeah.
Right, yeah.
It is very wholesome.
Yeah, they bonded mostly over the fact that they both lost people. I think that's.
Yes,
I think that is all the backstory really that we had at that time. But for Callista anyway. But they both lost someone special to them, and so they both kind of bonded over that. And then also, I know I said this last time, but Callista reminding Muldoon of his daughter. So.
Yes, and then you knocked over his grandfather's ashes, or nearly did.
I did do that. I did almost do that. Those were my wings, I think.
Your big
I think my wings did that, which, listen, sometimes you can't control your wingspan, okay? I don't know.
What you should do is, audience, you should take a shot every time Callista reacts to something by saying, Callista's wings tremble a little bit, or do this and that, take a shot.
Raise up, fluff out, all that kind of fun stuff. Yeah.
Very expressive, Callista. Very expressive.
And the thing is, she's not like with her actual facial expression. She's not. It's her wings mostly. So it's fun to try to interpret those.
Yes. And we talked about this a little bit, but obviously you went up to go and see Faye, who was meditating.
Yes, Sheriff Muldoon's niece. Yeah.
So Faye was captured during the Mantis Bay arc. She was held there by JJ, and we didn't really know why, and that was who Jimmy saw when he was awoken from these moments of torture by JJ. And it turns out that she's clairvoyant, and she had a message. And we talked about how this was a reference to the Adventure Zone, that I saw 7 birds, but she says in a voice that's not her own, she says, I see 5 hunters gathered around an obsidian pillar, 5 hunters traversing a hotel, 5 hunters fighting for their lives, and I see at the end of it all, there will be 2 choices and someone will die. And, some of this has come to pass, and that's part of the prediction of it.
Yeah.
And obviously
Scary.
Very scary, and Callista is very disturbed by it. She sees black clouds parting and several entities approaching, these entities twisting, and one of them at the back looking at Callista, burning through them. When you go downstairs, you have the Strombolis.
Yeah.
Callista burns her tongue and is angry that she burnt her tongue on it.
She doesn't eat.
Yeah.
She doesn't. I should clarify. She doesn't usually eat, but she had to. She had to participate in Muldoon's dinner, so she was mad about. She does tend to get mad about basic human concepts. So
she is a little bit childlike in that respect.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
It's cute and it's endearing. And then, of course, at that moment, when they're all done, they get the closure, they get some extra food, and they go back to Everett, and they go back to Sturgeon, which is where we pick up with Nell. So when they were going through Sturgeon, actually, I should mention before I jump over to you, I asked them to roll what they knew about Sturgeon. And obviously, if you're listening to this and you're on Dustlight Radio, there is a 95% chance you know what Sturgeon is. But if you don't, it is the universe I have been building for nearly 4 years. I'm very proud of it. I realize that there is a healthy dose of cringe when a writer, particularly a horror writer, builds their own universe and stuff like that. So I say these with, a degree of self-awareness that it's kind of cringy. But I don't take it overly seriously. I'm very proud of the stuff I've done. I'm very proud of the people it's reached. But, it's work and fun mixed into one. And the benefit is that when you transfer that over to D&D or to Monster of the Week, you have a built-in universe to use. So why wouldn't you use it? So they roll what they know about Sturgeon. And Jimmy did well, and he knew that there were 2 groups. The mundane, who know nothing of the things that live there, and the magic users and monsters who coexist together. Sturgeon has famously always been a municipality. It's sort of hinted it might be in America, but it could just be anywhere because it's sort of locked off from everywhere else. And the idea is that there are regular people, of course, who just go about their lives. They experience, they exist, they love, and they die. And then there are people who are magically touched, blighted, those who understand the world around them, and they live with nightmares and cryptids and monsters, some of which are feral, have no basic sapiency, some of which are very clever, very ancient, and they all kind of coexist together in this strange little town. Flebs knows that all the pillars in Sturgeon were formed by powerful magicians from eons ago, and he knows that the next mission is going to begin somewhere near there. And of course, at this point, we go back to the start of the last episode, which is Nell saying you can't save everyone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Nell Lockwood is generally where we go to, like, we always go to meet with her to debrief about our previous missions. So she always sort of is where we go, like I said, after we wrap up all the loose ends and all that kind of stuff. So, she's another kind of constant of our interlude sessions. So that's where we went first, and especially for this one, because basically Mantis Bay was our test as nightmare detectives.
Yes.
I mean, kind of the tutorial arc with the skinwalkers and stuff was sort of our test, but that was more of a test to see if we had, like, skill. And then this was our test to see if we could actually solve a mystery. Particularly this debrief was important because she also gave us, like, little character reviews as well. So, we each got reviewed. I think basically we all ended up doing okay, I would say. And, we each had our pros and our cons. Room for development, of course. Callista's review was given to her by Lady Death, I think, rather than Nell. But
yes, I believe so.
Yeah, because she's technically, Lady Death is the one that sent Callista there on assignment so that she'd actually do it.
Yeah, so the reviews were, so Flebs was, they were impressed but concerned, aptitude for adapting, quick to help but quick to die and get hurt, room for improvements, take time to think about surroundings and don't go off on your own. Jimmy was strong, both physically and morally, great sense of justice, but quick to anger. Room for improvements will work on anger management. And as you said, there was none for Callista. There's someone else who wants to give it to her. Margot's weren't written down, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jericho and Margot, I think.
Well, Jericho wasn't here for this. Right, bit.
I was going to say, I don't think either of them were there.
Ah, okay.
So
fair enough.
So we didn't have those ones down.
So Jimmy was told he wanted to fix his anger management, and he was led somewhere. And it was to a room where there was someone waiting for him, someone that Lucy is very familiar with.
Yes, one of my favorite. I have a couple favorite NPCs, Muldoon, of course, being one of them. But this is another one. I'm a little bit biased, but
yeah. So Jimmy goes back in a memory of when he was talking about his first monster hunt. He killed a siren. However, an elder statesman is not impressed and asks why he's going by Chewy now instead of his birth name. And he says that a female friend gave it to him in reference to Chewbacca from Star Wars. And he says, and this is a beautiful quote from Jimmy, he says, a given name by her means more to me than my birth name would because of the way that this person treated me. She treated me like an equal and a friend. In response, the elder statesman walks over and punches him right in the face. And this is important because of the first episode in the Hotel Inertia, so... in response, his relationship with a human is the tipping point for some of the tribe in the Sasquatch community, the catalyst for the meeting that saw him leave the tribe for good. So something that's very important is that it was also Jimmy's relationships with humans, but the Sasquatches, the tribe he belonged to, ended up migrating away to somewhere he could never get to.
Right.
And we will delve into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, present day, he comes back and launches himself at this person, where he went into this room with the person with a hoodie and a face mask on, and they said, run at me with every angry intent that you can. Sorry, we're reading notes as we go, because this was a couple months ago. That's where Jimmy goes into the memory to make himself angry. And well, Luce, you know what happens.
Yes, yes, Jimmy loses himself in that memory. He comes back, he launches himself at the person, and like the second he makes contact with them, his anger is just like evaporated because the person just hits him straight back. And I think Jimmy is not really used to being hit. I mean, he is used to being hit. He is a tank after all.
Yes.
But with such like equal force, I guess. Because Jimmy is also very strong and powerful, and I think this is one of the first occasions where he was like met with immediate equal energy. So he's hit and he's hit again, and as he's being hit, this person is talking to him, and basically she compliments him on being big and burly and that looking like he could fuck people up. So she says that she'll teach him, and of course Jimmy's like confused about what she's talking about, and she introduces herself as Wendy Hot Holly, and says that she will basically help him with his anger management because that is like the thing that he needs the most help with, and of course she has some experience in anger management, and she says she'll join them for their next mission, so try not to fuck it up.
Yeah, basically, try not to fuck it up. And Flebs in the meantime goes into another room. It's a small ornate one with a table and two chairs, like an interview room or a contact room. When he sits down, Lady Death appears in front of him, and if you've heard the last Sin Eater, if you know anything about Lady Death, she has two forms in my world. She has a human form, which is the black cloak and the skull candy face paint, and then she has a form which is just her full skeletal with like malleable features, but she's in the human form. And Flebs, being Flebs, I can't believe he asked this, asks Lady Death if she was a member of a Mexican drug cartel when she was alive because of the face paint. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and because of the way I play my characters is I'm very much like, I want my players to feel clever and sassy, and if they get one over and it's the right time, I'll definitely let them. But at the same time, if they say something rude, or I feel that they're acting in a way that's like my character would respond to that, I'm not going to let it slide. And naturally, she is literally the Lord of Death, the Lady of Death. And I know that if Callista was there, she would have punched Flebs.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right. So Lady Death says, she takes offense, says, if I can give life, I can take it away. And she says that when she brought him back the last time, a piece of him was left behind. She needs a payment, and it needs to be in flesh. She asks him for one of his eyes as payment for his life. However, he'll no longer have to wear glasses and will receive a prosthetic that gives him a special skill, but he'll have to go to Mr. Sticky to calibrate it. And she leans in and says, I know about your brother, and if you lie to me, there'll be consequences. Do you know what he's doing now? And he says no, and she believes him, and it's probably for the best that he doesn't know. And Flebs' brother will come up in the Hotel Inertia, but there is this notion from what we know at the moment that he is a kind of a shitty older brother.
Yeah, well, to say the least.
Flebs spent a lot of his life captured away from his family, and then when he got out, he began learning and hunting cryptids to survive. But his brother has always kind of loomed over him like a horrible shadow.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And at that moment, Callista goes in to visit Lady Death as Flebs goes to see Mr. Sticky.
Yeah, we've got two meetings with Lady Death. She has a big part in our group dynamic, I feel, not just because Callista serves her, but because I feel like she has, because of the importance of our mission, she has like an interest in them and how they turn out. Yeah, and then not to mention, have we like gone into a lot of detail about Flebs' quote-unquote death? I can't remember how much we mentioned of that last session, if anything.
I don't know, but I believe we mentioned that he went into the room. No, we did talk about how he went into the room, and it was a typical horror setting where there's like just a TV and stuff.
Yes.
And he basically like kind of died, and Lady Death brought him back, and so her payment was the eye.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So that would be another reason why she has an interest in them. So anyway, Callista has her meeting with Lady Death, and basically instead of debriefing Nell, especially toward the beginning, Callista kind of debriefs her instead. And so she does that. Lady Death appears to her more in her true form, though. Instead of the human form. The human form is kind of for Flebs' benefit. And also the room, too. Like, they meet in her true realm, in her true form. So, she asks Callista how she's doing with the change of pace, because Callista has not worked with humans for a very, very long time. Intentionally. And Callista's not super happy about it. Lady Death tells her that she's kind of noticed Callista's old self returning more than it had before, because mostly what we know about her so far is that she suffered something tragic, she lost someone, and then she shut herself down, essentially, and gave in like 100% to her service to Lady Death. So Lady Death saw her before that ever happened, and knows Callista better than anybody else at this moment. So
yes,
but yeah, basically on their next mission, Lady Death gives her a warning, which is very important, that she will encounter someone who will promise her things that should not be possible, and they will provide evidence for them, but Callista or anybody else should not accept the offer, because terrible things will happen if she does, and in 6 months everything will come to a head and someone is going to die, and Lady Death can't even see who it is, but it is someone important, and she just hopes it's not Callista.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's a heavy prophecy.
It really is. I definitely did lay some foundations, and I just want to take this moment to say, like, one of the things I know I'm doing very differently, and this is based on my own experiences of Monster of the Week and what DMs will say. You are not supposed to play Monster of the Week in a way where you plan things out. Like, it's completely antithesis to the game, and I really do recognize that. But the nature of how we're playing the game and what my players enjoy, and I would welcome Lucy to sort of, back me up on that, or tell me if I'm wrong, is that they enjoy that I'm laying breadcrumbs for their characters and planning out certain things, but I plan out moments, not like major things that the characters have to do, unless there's an objective, obviously. So I will say this is a very different, and I probably will put this at the beginning of the first proper episode, it's a very different flavor of Monster of the Week. If you go on any forum, whether it's Reddit or like the Evil Hat, anything like that, they will say, like, don't worry about it, don't plan, that's not how the game's played, and there's nothing wrong with that, and I would encourage a player who is getting into this, maybe, if you want that kind of experience, that's the traditional experience.
Right.
But when I started playing this, I realized during the Mantis Bay arc that my players responded very well to the notions of there's a big mission, there's a mini mission, and there's stuff you'll learn along the way. So when I did the thing with Lady Death and I was setting up a bit more of the hook, I was like, in 6 months, someone's gonna die. We find out what happens there eventually. You guys will have to wait quite a long time for that, but we do find out.
Sorry.
That pays off. And that's the thing, is that, I believe, because this takes place over about 6 months. So right now the gang are about 7 months, 8 months in the future, I think. Luce, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
About that? Yeah. I like to lay those breadcrumbs and I like to set up the stakes, but I do recognize that it is different, and obviously if that was too much and it put someone off, I really would understand. But I would urge you, if you love Sturgeon, if you love horror and a bit of an anime references and comedy, I think you will find this a lot of fun. But it does go off the rails a bit. Like, it's not a hardcore Monster of the Week game. We definitely play it fast and loose. We definitely have roles that are being hinted at or led towards, because a lot of the players are not super confident, at least early on, and they get so much more confident as time goes on. One of the things I think, and I'll ask you this as a player, Luce, but like when the gang got more confident, more sassy, I think it was halfway through Hotel Inertia, maybe near the end of it, would you say?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's because and I unfortunately, like we said a bunch of times, like the very beginning episodes were recorded. Can't stress enough how little confidence we had then, because like some of us had never played before. Most of us had at least haven't played in a while, and we didn't really know each other very well, and we just made these characters, and there was a whole bunch of reasons why none of us really knew what we were doing. So by Hotel Inertia, by the time you guys hear the episodes that we have recorded, we are more confident than that, at least. But yes, I do think over the course of Hotel Inertia, you can hear our characters developing, but also like us and the way that we play. Your own voices are developing, yeah. Yes, yeah, and the way that we all get along with each other and respond to each other and help each other. And I think that is just really cool in hindsight, like now that we're here now, to remember how we started out, and to listen back, as I'm sure we will, to those episodes and kind of hear it happening over time. Because yeah, I mean, we just did just to peek behind the curtain, we just did a one-shot last night due to a scheduling conflict, which was myself, Lucy, Amy, who plays Margot, and Jericho, who plays Trevin, who plays Jericho, and one of my best friends, who was. So I should probably mention this right now. That my best friend, I ended up having an inside joke, and I inserted him physically into the game, and as Victor Mendoza playing Victor Mendoza, and we decided, and I don't want to spoil this because one day this episode will come out. One day. But we did a one-shot in a very twisted theme park with the gang, and everyone was so confident in just shit posting and having fun because they've had so long to play this game, and that was such a gratifying thing for me as a DM. And the only other peek behind the curtain I'll offer is that Lucy and I knew each other very well, but the rest of the gang did not. We all met through some mutual friends, and now we have become a bit of a support group for each other. We're all, as any human beings are, any adults will do. They'll go through changes, through difficulties. Everyone's got their own battle going on, myself included, and we lean on each other. And we've leaned on each other more and more. And I think one of the things I would say to any of you listening out there, whether you are in your late teens, if you're in your mid-20s, in your late 40s, if you're having trouble with whether it's socializing or mental health, especially mental health, or just personal problems, playing D&D, playing Monster of the Week with a good DM, which is super important, but also good people, can be one of the things that really saves you. Because you have a routine to stick to. It encourages you to socialize. You get to be creative. You get the gratification of watching your character grow or seeing your story pay off. And you grow closer with those people. And obviously, you're always going to get people who are a little bit difficult here and there. But like the way that we are now, if I said to any of them, "Hey, X problem is going on, do you want to stop?" They would say absolutely not, and they would want to keep it going. We really are dedicated to this game, and if the show didn't, as I said this last time, if the show doesn't do well, that's okay. I'm still going to be putting it out there, and we're still going to do it. We will keep playing no matter what. Yeah, when you find a good D&D group, or you find a good Monster of the Week group, you tend to stick with it, and that's sort of one of the things I would say is like it's been a huge boon for me. I've made no secret of the fact that obviously I'm grieving. My dad was killed last year, and that's challenging, and I'm going through my own things with it, and it's not for this, not for the channel, but as a part of this primer, doing these stories, doing these sessions has made that process so therapeutic. And even doing these primers, going back and looking at stories that we told, back in February, it's the 23rd of May when we record this, and this is not going to come out until probably, no, it probably will come out before June, probably in like 2 weeks. But, to look at what we did, 4 months ago and where we came, it's very cool in that respect. Yeah. But anyway, enough about me. No, you're absolutely right. And for the record, like I said, we as people started off in such different places, and I know that, like, me personally, I don't commit to routines very well. I tend to fall out of them very quickly. I don't know, that's just how my brain works. And so when we first started this, I was like, we were doing it twice a week. I mean, we still are. Monday and Wednesday were the days we settled on because I have a weird schedule. And I know for me, like, when we first started, I was like, I can't do this twice a week. Like, I'm gonna have to drop out. I'm gonna have to drop out for some of it. Like, I'm gonna have to reduce it down to once a week, maybe, or I'll just have to miss some sessions, or I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna be able to do this. I don't think I've missed a session yet, have I? I think I've
No.
I think maybe I canceled out of one and we just canceled it in general. But yeah, this has been a routine that I really like having. Because yeah, like TJ said, you know, we've all kind of gotten a lot closer together and bonded over the course of the time we've been doing this, and it's really cool to have each other as friends, and then also just have our characters be so close together as well. It's like two kinds of connection at the same time. And, you know, sort of to backtrack to how we play Monster of the Week, I think it ends up being, you know, I've played D&D before, and it's been a while for me, but it kind of is more shaped like a D&D campaign, like a long-form D&D campaign with Monster of the Week mechanics, is how it's ended up sort of becoming, I feel like.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, it's become a hybrid in that sense.
Yeah.
It's definitely broken away from the traditional mechanics, and I would say, sorry, but I would just say, like, if you're not an experienced storyteller, because I'm not an experienced DM, but I'm an experienced storyteller, and you aren't confident in that story, I wouldn't do the game this way. This is extremely stressful in so many different respects. It's better to do the traditional material and use those resources, which I am using, and I'm learning constantly. And when we go to D&D, I will need a good bit of time to really understand the mechanics. But yeah,
right.
Sorry, Luce, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I mean, that's basically... that's essentially, like, again, it's just become sort of this long-form, sort of D&D-esque campaign, only in the sense of, like you said, it's more planned out, and it's less, it's become less episodic over time, you know. I mean, it is still a little, we do have our individual arcs, but there is, like, more of a consistent storyline overlying it. And, yeah, and that's sort of... I think this is sort of where it started happening, was Hotel Inertia, like we were talking about with Lady Death's prophecy. I think that's where, and Faye's prophecy as well, I think that's where most of the future stuff started coming in, because at this point, after, our 8 episodes, I think, were Mantis Bay and the prologue combined?
This is episode number, so if we're going by, are you including talking about the interlude? Because this would be session 7 we're covering right now.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it would be that. So, yeah, basically, after that amount of time is when we were like, we are committing to do this much longer term, I feel like. And that's why we were able to hint toward future events and all that kind of stuff. And by we, I mean TJ, because we don't hint toward future events at all. But this is also where our backstory stuff starts coming in, which is going to be interesting. I mean, we've had some hints to it throughout Mantis Bay, but you guys are going to come in at a great time, because we are going to really delve into each of our backstories, and our characters, more specifically, are going to start bonding over that, which is, I think, that's like my favorite part of D&D and Monster of the Week, is when our characters get to really come together and their stories start to intertwine more, and they stop being separate people with separate lives, and they start collaborating. And
that could be hard, right? That could be hard to be like, you know, how do you get everybody together? How do you bring them, you know? And I guess this is relevant to the interlude, because these interludes, especially this first one, are an opportunity to figure out how those characters operate on their own. Yeah. And I would say that for my players, it can be quite terrifying for them when I give them just free reign. I'm like, so, you know, what do you want to do? And so you'll often catch me, as I said before, going, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. I ask them before the sessions.
Because we're scared.
Yeah, but I do ask them before the sessions, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? It's like, I have regular conversations with each player before their sessions or after their sessions. Mostly Luce, obviously, but Trevin, who plays Jericho, Amy, who plays Margot, and you know, I go through everyone, and I make sure that I encourage them to talk to me. But when we do these things, it can be hard to see how we blend them together. And there's been 3 interludes. Well, actually, no, there's been 4 now, excuse me. As each one has gone on, the second one got a little bit more like intimate in the terms of how everyone reacted. The third one was very personal, everyone was very close together, and it really felt like you were turning that corner. And the fourth one had its own elements to it that were very, very heartbreaking and also very uplifting. And so they have they all have something different, but you see that growth in real time. Because I think the other thing is that player characters, sometimes people, when they're playing a character, especially in D&D, more than Monster of the Week, they take it so seriously, and that's also fine, by the way, just want to be clear. I prefer a player who takes it seriously over one who just doesn't care at all. But they will not want them to grow with the other characters in like 2 weeks. They'll be like, well, no, it's going to take months, because that's how a real person would grow and trust you. And I think the best example of that is Callista. Callista is the perfect example of a character that grows so slowly. And by the time we meet her, she's opened up a little bit. She opens up way more after Hotel Inertia, and even more after the Arc 3.
Yes.
Arc 4, sorry, What Secrets We Keep. And so, yeah, like when we to bounce us back in, because I don't know how people might be skipping ahead now. Then this is relevant, because obviously when Lady Death says in 6 months it's going to happen, someone's going to die. She says she can't see who, but it's someone important, and she hopes it's not Callista. And Callista says, although it's been a long time, she is afraid she'd be weak if offered Paola, because obviously there's an agreement that Callista has, which was that she got to go back and spend a second life with Paola, if she then offered service to Lady Death permanently, and she would get to meet Paola again one day.
Yes, and that's all backstory that's like not, I don't think she's talked about yet in the to the other characters. But
not at this moment in time, no.
Due to us having we have flashbacks and stuff like that, where that kind of thing becomes relevant. So the other player characters know somewhat what has happened with that. Paola being the person, of course, that she keeps alluding to having lost, who she basically lived an entire mortal life with, and was her wife. And that is and she is the person who Death says this person is going to offer you a deal, and it's going to be for Paola. And Callista's like, I don't think I'm strong enough to resist that. I don't think I can turn that down. And I remember this because Lady Death is generally very maternal, I think, toward Callista, and very at least very much a mentor and a friend. And I remember this because, Callista said, I don't know if I can resist that deal if it's made to me. And Lady Death, forced her down to her knees and, was just, very serious with her and said, everything dies, everything must end. That is how it is. And if you accept this deal, everything's going to end, because that's not how it works. And I've already told you, it is impossible what he's refusing you. I know, I'm Death. I sent her away myself. It will not be her. It will not be right. And you are my best, but you are not more important than the rest of creation. And
that's pretty good ad lib from me on improv. I was quite happy with that when I now reading it. I was like, damn, I said that was up in my head. What the fuck?
It's kind of scary. It's a little scary. And then of course, immediately following this, Callista gets another vision. Poor Callista's had 3 visions this interlude of everybody she knows, everybody in the party, just dying, in various ways, by the same group of creatures. She watches everyone get killed in these ways, and then she watches herself get her wings severed. And, it's a little traumatic. And basically Lady Death tells her that is what will happen if you take this deal. Basically saying would it be worth it? would this be worth it to you if you were to accept that? So yeah, there's a little bit of Callista trying to reconnect with her humanity that she's had. And I think that's partly what Lady Death is appealing to, because most of the time Callista is very good at shutting herself off and just making a logical decision versus an emotional decision. And I think Lady Death is trying to get her to see the full emotional impact of what would actually happen.
Yes. It's really weird how storytelling can sometimes be, because it's a lot of it subconscious. Like, when you see these, Luce, do you, like, it's interesting how much of the breadcrumbs were laid, like, for certain things, and then some things went off a different direction that I didn't think about, and then yet, you know, it's fascinating in that way.
Yeah.
Like, looking further down at stuff as well, like, I mean, none of this is a spoiler because, like, it doesn't happen the way we read it now, but it's just interesting. So, Callista asks why she was placed with the humans, and Death basically says, have you forgotten your humanity? And Callista says, well, I've tried. And Death says, how long has it been since you've seen Paola? And Callista, not understanding time, says it's been centuries, it's been an eternity, and it has been a long time, but it's been 186 years. Lady Death says it's been 2 centuries since you tried to push your humanity away, and you're already gaining it back in just a few days. But Callista doesn't want it, and Death said it's not about what you want, it's about what you need. And basically goes in and says, Death says, if you find a well-dressed man in a black suit with horns and a satchel, you need to contact her above all else. And she kisses her forehead and tells her that she does these things because she loves her as she loves all of her fallen.
Yeah, so, yeah, that premonition was definitely an ominous prelude to the hotel arc that we're about to do. Because yeah, that's what Callista has to keep an eye out for the entire time, and she basically walks away from that meeting, like having to contemplate how she's growing and then how it could all be taken away. So yeah, that's kind of a lot. And then, you know, like I said, we all have different things that we do during each of the interludes. This is like the only time really where we split up and do our own separate things. So like while Flebs is having his meeting with Death, followed by Callista having her meeting with Death, Jimmy is going to Mr. Sticky to get his weaponry. I think he gets a new weapon with him this time. And Flebs follows and gets his eye calibrated, like Lady Death told him to do. And then the scene after that is one of my favorite, I would say, like one of a very good example of the character interaction that we're building on.
Yeah, please tell us about it.
Yeah. Like I said, we started out more separate from each other, and over time, our backstories started to intertwine a little bit. And this is one of them, Callista and Margot. Basically, when Margot first showed up, in the very beginning, she recognized Callista as a fallen, and pretty much immediately. And Callista was a little bit surprised by that because there aren't that many fallens. Like, they're sort of like a little. It's sort of know that they exist, but there aren't a lot of them. And Margot's just a human, so Callista's like, oh, I didn't know you knew that. Like for Flebs, who's an expert and has researched all kinds of monsters, it'd be different. But Margot's not really that, so. The whole time we were doing the Mantis Bay arc, Callista was curious, like, how did she know that I was a fallen? So this is them talking about that. Callista basically asks her how she recognized her, and Margot is lost in a memory, and this is the first time that we are hearing of this, that on the night her family died, she essentially tried to take her own life. And as she was being ferried through to the afterlife, Callista was the one who was ferrying her. Margot doesn't know why, because Callista never told her, but Callista, instead of seeing her all the way through to the end, brought her back to Earth and brought her back to life. And so Margot admits to Callista, like, she doesn't just recognize any fallen, she recognizes her specifically, but I think the memory was like a little bit lost to her, so she only remembers it vaguely, because it's a memory from like a long time ago, on a different plane of existence for her, so that's fair. And Callista says, like, she just kind of assumed that Margot wouldn't remember that, and Margot says that it was like a hard thing to forget. So Callista says that she previously didn't know the circumstances of Margot's death or her journey to the afterlife, because she doesn't ask. She ferries a lot of humans, and she doesn't ask. But, after hearing Margot in Mantis Bay saying various things to the NPCs and all that stuff, she kind of pieced together the context a little bit. So Margot, Margot confides in Callista, telling her about her loss of her family, and basically says that after they were killed, she couldn't imagine a future without them in it. And Callista kind of relates to that from her loss as well, and says she understands her, but she also gives her some advice. She tells Margot that she can use her anger as a tool because Margot is very set on revenge and kind of letting her anger take her over.
Yes.
And so Callista basically tells her, use that, but don't let it consume you, and if or when you get your revenge, after that, using your anger is going to make the after more bearable, instead of just leaving you with nothing left. And Margot says that she doesn't really want an after, like the revenge is her main goal in life.
Yeah, she's also playing the wrong, so that makes a lot of sense.
She is. That's basically the archetype of the main archetype of the wronged is just real revenge for what took everything from you in the first place. That's what Margot is playing under the assumption of. So she says she'll consider what Callista says, but Margot doesn't really want that. And Callista realizes she said a very similar thing to Lady Death moments ago about her humanity and how she doesn't really want that back. And so she says that that's all that she can ask for, is that she considers it and tries at least. So that's a very I think we're like called back to Nell after that, who has an urgent message for us, but that is basically a very good example of how our backstories kind of intersect.
Yes.
And how we grow in our character interactions, because we definitely did not have anything like that in our first, our trial interlude, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, and our last scene before that was Flebs spoke to Nell. Flebs had the player character read anything about the last Sin Eater or Nell Lockwood, so as you guys will all know. And Flebs said, well, how did Nell become the Nell Lockwood, the way that she is now? And Nell explains that she was once called the last Sin Eater. She had to make a difficult choice to save the man she loved, Simon Buck Nasty McGraw, or stop the warden of the prison, and she chose to stop him because she couldn't save Buck either way. So she had to kill him herself with her bare hands. The spirit of Buck saved them from the warden, but since Buck was the original Cryptid Compendium owner, Nell took it over for him instead. She became who she was through great sacrifice and through great grief, and she feels she needs to guide the next generation while she can. And Nell says that Flebs needs to let people in more, his friends and those he cares for. He needs to trust them. Flebs says that he trusts the book, but Nell says that he needs to trust himself. And as they read together, Flebs realizes he hasn't seen Jericho since they got here. He asks where he is, and Nell looks up to see OF Province in the doorway. OF Province is a one-off character from my I Don't Trust the Sturgeon Farmers Collective story. They are the lead reporter for the Sturgeon Nexus, which is one of the only media outlets in Sturgeon, but they also have a staff which was emblazoned with the moth symbol. OF comes in, leaves a note on the table, and says, "Our debt is paid, you know where to find me." Then Nell alerts everyone that there is an emergency, bringing back Jimmy, bringing back Callista and Margot, and says while everyone was there, they had a spell placed on them. A spell placed to make sure no one noticed that Jericho was gone. Nell says that their mission has changed and they need to get Jericho back. He's been indicted on charges, and the Inquisitor is someone he knows. If the group doesn't intervene, they will strip him of everything and they will make him a husk. And the note simply reads, "We have Mr. Branch. Our associates are taking care of him. Bring evidence and testimony to the top floor of Hotel Inertia in 3 days. We will be watching. We will be waiting. We are the Order of the Moth." And the back of it says, Grand Inquisitor of the Order of the Moth, Dennis Rowe. Now, Dennis was someone that Jericho knew prior, in the sense of, and this is just like some basic info. Trevin came up with a couple of characters, and someone that he heard in that opening prologue when there were voices in the woods, he heard Dennis Rowe. Flebs heard his brother Nardalus, who we've talked about earlier, and Callista heard Paula. And when you guys had the final battle at the end of Mantis Bay against JJ Watson, Jericho used a big magic spell to dispel JJ, and he looked up and saw someone was watching him. And the magic that left traces, as I keep saying in this game, there are a couple things I keep repeating to all the players: actions and consequences, and magic leaves traces. And the magic that left traces was Dennis Rose magic. And so seeing that led us into the events of the Hotel Inertia. And the reason we did that was that there is a luck mechanic in the game, and that turns any failed roll or any potential failed roll into a complete success, but you mark it on your playbook. And each character has a playbook special. And Jericho's was very basic for the spell slinger. It was just the Council of Wizards is going to put their stick their nose into your business. I was like, that's too mild. So I turned it into something far worse. But that's kind of how we ended up like going into that, that arc. And it was as you're going to find out, a wonderful experience and a great way for me to kind of flesh out the Hotel Inertia just a little bit more.
Yeah, and for those of us, because not everyone in the group is as familiar with your stories and your world. I am, because I've been part of them. But yeah, not everyone else is. So it's a good way to also like prelude the Hotel Inertia in general for those who are less familiar with it, because it is an interesting place, as we will come to find out. And obviously we can't say too much about it because this is where we're going to start with the first episode. But yeah, it's all of this basically gives us a point to start with. Everyone has done one arc as a group already, so we are a little bit more familiar with each other than we were before. But we are all still, like I said, kind of separate characters. We're starting to intertwine just now. But Hotel Inertia, like we mentioned earlier, is where we really grow and develop, and where our characters really grow and develop. So it is a very cool arc, and I'm really glad we got this one recorded, if not the other two. So
yeah, I think if out of any of them I would lose, respectfully. Yeah. Mantis Bay is the one I'm okay with losing. I would not want to lose Hotel Inertia, and I certainly would not want to lose the last arc we just did.
Yeah, that one's a little bit, that one would be hard to do a primer about, I think.
Yeah, we could not. Yeah, no, we could not. But I believe, as a way of just wrapping it up, so you will see us one more time, which will be on episode 2 of Hotel Inertia, because that's the last one that got corrupted. So you have 2.5 hours of the intro to the arc, which will give you a really good idea of how we will play. We will break down episode 2, and I think we'll probably come back again to do like maybe a post sort of like decompression, maybe. Like, might even sit with some of the other gang and just talk about what we remember about that time. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But when you look at the like overall like how long the arc kind of goes for, I believe there are, if I'm just going to check this out now, so 6, 23. So there is about 30 hours of content in the Hotel Inertia. Ooh. Yeah, it's a lot. We record for a long time, and we try to get a lot done.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I am very excited to see what you guys think of it. As we finish this recording, Luce and I are gonna go and get ready for the first primer going up, which we are very excited to share with all of you.
Yeah.
I think more people will jump on at the first proper episode, but hey, you know what? Anyone who jumps in now, we appreciate you very much.
Yes. And you got some cool context for the first episode. So. Yes, and hopefully by the time that this goes up, we'll have a bit more of a schedule. I think these are probably going to go up every Monday. That's my guess at the moment. Just how I'm sort of feeling, but obviously for today it'll be a Tuesday for the first primer. So we will see. Luce, anything else from you? Anything else we might have missed, or anything you want to bring up? I don't think so. Hopefully we actually covered everything.
Wow, we're near on an hour as well, an hour and 7. We were actually pretty accurate on how much it would take to cover. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, well, I know that, for the people listening to it, it can be a little bit like, because we're just sort of summarizing it pretty quick. Like, there's obviously, since, Hotel Inertia was about 30 hours, the first 2 arcs that we did, trial arcs, but still, also took a while. So there's just a lot of information condensed down to these, 2 or 3 hours that we did these primers for. But once you start listening to the Hotel Inertia arc, hopefully it all kind of comes together for you. We hopefully provided enough context that if we mention something, it doesn't at least make zero sense. And a lot of the important context is developed over the Hotel Inertia arc anyway, for future events. So hopefully it is all relevant to you guys, but of course, just like last time, we're able to answer any questions and take any feedback as well. And if we do start a new campaign after this, we will record it all. So
yeah.
We won't have to do this again.
Absolutely. The fingers crossed we don't have to do it again, eh?
Right, not to jinx it or anything, but...
Yeah, not to jinx it. But no, it's been, as it was last time, an absolute pleasure. I think, I speak for both Luce and I, and for everyone in the group. We are so grateful to everyone who is on board with the voice work me and Lucy will do on our respective channels for Dark Somnium. We're really grateful for people who just love Sturgeon as much as they do, or just hungry for the content. And, we're just excited to see where this goes, and whether it's a very slow, very minimal build or a big build, doesn't matter. We hope you love this world and these characters as much as we do. And thank you for sticking with us through 2 primers. Next up will be a proper episode. I promise you'll enjoy it. And then we will see you for one final primer after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. That was a solid ending. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. And we will see you again when dusk enters the station. Take care.